You're listening to Heroes in the Moment.
What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
And today we're breaking down Ahsoka, Episode 5, Shadow Warrior. And I just want to scream with excitement right now. Wow, man.
Yeah.
Love note to Clone Wars fans. Absolutely love note. And my heart just beating right now just thinking about how much watching this I was in awe. I was crying. Did you experience the crying feeling?
No.
I was emotional, let me tell you. It was just so emotionally impactful. I was the edge of my seat the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah. Let me just all I say, Michael, just hear me out. I'm gonna start with what I really liked first. My first impressions, like I said, they killed the Clone Wars stuff. Anakin, obviously, he looked great. His scenes with Ahsoka, those scenes were fire. I can't lie. The flashback scenes, those were fire, and they fit perfectly. But the thing that I'm stuck up is like this was the best episode yet.
Oh yeah.
Easily. But like this episode was full of fan service and nostalgia. So like, I don't know, man. I have a hard time seeing kind of where the narrative went with this one. Like, I know she did like the whole Gandalf turn to white coming out of that thing, but it just feels like kind of a Mando like season. Like the best episode is kind of the one that's kind of not based on Ahsoka, because not based on Ahsoka, but it just felt like it was kind of there for the fan service. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
And it was the best. But I'm the subplot with Hera, I think is terrible going on right now, and no one was interested in it. It's like, I don't know, man. We're halfway through. I feel like they could have pushed this off to later. Like, what are they doing with her?
I disagree in the sense that because this had everything to do with Ahsoka completing her training. She didn't finish. She left the Jedi Order. We didn't get that. And this series was building towards this particular episode. And then now it's building to where she's gotten her closure now. She didn't have closure before.
Okay.
She didn't finish her training. She became a gray Jedi. But Anakin helped and guided her to complete that training that she was missing through the World Between Worlds, to where she got closure from the Clone Wars. She was still feeling the pity, and we'll break down each of those scenes individually with you guys in just a second. But in each of those scenes, she was overcoming something that she'd never overcame before, because she was holding it inside of herself. And then we see at the very end that she can give in to the dark, but she chooses not to. She chooses to live, right? And that's why she comes back as Ahsoka the White, because she's finally gotten closure. And I think that was so beautifully done. And Dave Filoni, I love you, man, because he understands Star Wars fans. Because yes, it was fan service. However, it wasn't like fan service like Book of Boba Fett was that came out of nowhere. It was a great episode.
That's
and
true.
The whole Luke thing came out of nowhere. This is Ahsoka's story. Clone Wars was her story. And then the Siege of Mandalore was her story. The whole thing between Anakin and her, the story of their relationship, and it never ended because she left him in the Jedi Order. They came back. He gave her blue lightsabers to go and put her in charge of a mission. Left off. Next time they confront each other, he's Vader. And they don't get that closure. Never completed her training. She never becomes a Jedi Knight. And here is that closure. This is where she's finally coming to terms with what happened between them. And I think that even though it was fan service and it was beautiful fan service and each scene left me wanting more, I think it fit because we had to see that closure. You said towards the beginning of Ahsoka, you were feeling like it wasn't Ahsoka, right? It wasn't Ahsoka's show. It was more.
I feel like it did feel like that, at least in the beginning.
Right. It was, and then it was more like Rebel Season 5, which is a lot of what this is. I feel like this particular episode brought in how it is Ahsoka's show, and how she's getting that closure finally that she was so desperately needing, because you could see how dark she was. And even through this even through this episode, you could feel the old Ahsoka emerging back. I think that was a big thing, because and shout out to young Ahsoka too, because she captured Ashley Eskin's energy perfectly.
She was
killed
great.
it. And we'll talk about her in a minute.
She was in Barbie.
She was in Barbie. She's also young Gamora.
She's in all the big projects.
Incredible job there. I just think it was a great level of closure between them. And Hera's plot, the only reason that it wasn't as interesting is just because we kept wanting more of Ahsoka and Anakin. That's the whole reason.
I don't think it's that interesting in the first place, to be honest.
I think it makes sense because obviously she's naturally going to be looking for them. And that's all it was. And they didn't have a whole bunch of screen time anyway. I mean, it was just a little bit. So I think this episode would have served better. It's still an amazing episode, best by far. I think it would serve better if it was purely just Anakin and Ahsoka the entire time.
I agree. I don't see a point to throwing a subplot.
But I understand why they do it, because Star Wars does it constantly, right? And you had the Revenge of the Sith fight. There was, the going back and forth between that and Yoda and the things going on there, which that was epic though. But now you got to go back and forth and kind of put those pieces together. Even though that could have done better in the next episode, I understand they're trying to get to Thrawn and Ezra, right? They got to get there. They got 3 more episodes to do it, so they got to get there. So I think I understand what you're saying, but I really think they served this episode well.
Yeah, no, you got a good point there. At least from my perspective, I don't know. It feels like they halfway through every like Star Wars Disney Plus show, they just like bring in old characters,
but
obviously to help out the show. But like you said, it does kind of suit the purpose,
right? And I think this one has been the most consistent to me of the Star Wars shows. Mandalorian season 1 and
like Boba Fett
2,
really didn't.
Boba Fett was out of place,
like
right?
Fit,
Those 2 episodes, episode 5 and episode 6, were great of Book of Boba Fett, but that was it, right? Book of Boba Fett out of place, and the Obi-Wan, the whole fight scene there was great, but also is forced as well in a lot of ways. Here, it felt natural. And I appreciated the consistency that Ahsoka has shown so far. And the fans are agreeing on the show. I think this is the first time since, in a while, since probably Mandalorian season 1, or probably season 2, that we've seen Star Wars fans agree and connect, right?
It's a wild thing.
And I appreciate that. And I'm glad to be a Star Wars fan right now.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the episode itself. So straight to the business of Ahsoka meeting with Anakin, right? And Hayden Christensen. Love you, dude.
They're de-aging on him.
Incredible.
Amazing,
so
dude.
good.
It makes me wish they would have had that, for
I know,
his other
They just didn't do it with him. But
he looks so good.
He looks so good.
He looks
but
so
also, like, what I appreciated is he didn't feel like Hayden Christensen Revenge of the Sith. He felt like Clone Wars Anakin. And I was like, good job.
That's a sign of a good actor, man.
Is.
He's always got way too much hate for his role. Like, at the time he was still young and maturing, but he had nothing to work with.
He did not.
And you see him here, it's like he's matured, he's improved.
And honestly,
it's awesome to see.
This may have been, this could be a controversial take, but it may have been Hayden Christensen's best performance in Star Wars. Honestly.
Listen, man.
It might have been.
It's not saying a ton, but I think
it might have been. And some of the scenes they gave us here is because I think this particular episode did a better job of showing the reason Anakin turned to the dark than Revenge of the Sith did.
I do too.
And that's really good, right?
Revenge of the Sith, I could just never wrap my head around that the guy I saw at the beginning was the guy I saw at the end.
Not at all.
Clone Wars did a good job, but still, I was a little hesitant. But this
episode did well.
Makes a little more sense.
So we'll get into. So Anakin meets with Ahsoka. He reveals to her that your training isn't finished. Snips. Oh, I love that. Love hearing the snips. And he killed that line
it's
delivery.
So weird in live action seeing it.
I know. And
it's
I'm
going to
say, shout out here to Dave Filoni, because the dialogue between Ahsoka and Anakin was great.
Yeah, just like something you see in Clone Wars.
It was great.
Yeah.
The whole live or die premise and the many themes that came with what they were showing.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Loved it. And just the fact that like every single piece of dialogue translates back to the Clone Wars and their dialogue there.
Yeah.
Hey, Filoni, I love you, man.
It's good writing.
It's such good writing. So they begin. Anakin pulls out that lightsaber. That gave me chills.
Yeah.
I must say.
I was like, oh, baby, what's about to happen?
And then we see it. The lightsaber duel commences.
Yeah.
And it is epic.
I
can't
dope,
deny
dude.
it. Their lightsaber fight throughout the entire episode between the first one and then the next one.
Yeah.
Some of the best lightsaber fights we've seen.
Dude, the choreography was crazy.
It was pretty cool choreography.
Yeah.
It really was.
They killed it,
They
man.
did a great job. Shout out Rosario Dawson,
And
Hayden Christensen,
yeah.
and also Ariana Greenblatt,
Okay.
right? Shout out all of them. They did a
Yeah.
great job with that. So they commence with that. And then we cut to Hera, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on Hera's scenes, but this I have to highlight because it is important. Jason Syndulla hears the lightsabers in the World Between Worlds. What do you think about that?
He's force sensitive.
He's force sensitive,
obviously.
absolutely.
So, it just makes me wonder, what are they going to do with the future for his character?
Yeah.
Like they're teasing him to be some Jedi, but I don't know. I don't see enough, interest around this character.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
I guess maybe if Ahsoka gets greenlit for a second season, I guess may he be more of a predominant role as a young Jedi.
I don't think
maybe
this is
her
going to be a
training
second
him.
season show. I think this is more going to be a show that leads into the movie that we're going to be getting.
So you think Jason will be a big character in that then?
I don't think it'll be a big character, but I think the movie will probably end with either her or somebody else, or Ahsoka may even die in the movie, but somebody else training Jason, right? In my opinion, I think the perfect master for Jason is Ezra.
Yeah.
Because it's the closure there, because his father trained him. So
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool, but we'll have to wait and see what they do with that. But he's hearing the lightsabers, and then we also get a Leia name drop. What'd you think about that?
That was wild. I still have a hard time
processing it.
Thinking about them.
He was like
in
Senator
the same
Organa.
universe.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh!
I'm like,
I did the whole Leonardo DiCaprio thing.
Is.
Ooh, I did that many times. This episode.
That me?
Many times. Ooh. Love that. Shout out Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, shout out the homie.
Then we go back into the world between worlds, and we see that Ahsoka doesn't beat Anakin, but Anakin lets her get on him, and she's like, you haven't learned everything yet. He sends her, and she falls into the Clone Wars. What was your initial reaction there?
Dude, first of all, I was not expecting this.
No.
I thought it was just going to be them in there the whole time, but the flashback came, and I was like, woo!
And she looked good.
She looked great, dude.
She looked just like she did.
Her makeup, the thingamathings.
Yes. Shout out Ariana Greenblatt. They picked a good actress for this. That she did a really good job with that. And where we are is we're at the Clone Wars battle. She said it was early on in the training. This was actually the Battle of Ryloth that we see, which is the last arc in season 1 of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And the whole purpose of here is to kind of see how Ahsoka made mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. She wasn't perfect. She ended up getting a bunch of clones killed in this battle. All these types of stuff that did actually happen in the show. And then now it's showing the pastbacks here. And she's like, why are we here? And then his whole premise of, that we got to learn from your past mistakes. And we're coming back here to really understand what this means, right? You had the whole idea of soldiers versus keepers of the peace, right? She was having a hard time understanding that. He was like, Anakin's always been 100% soldier, right?
Yeah.
He's been the outlier, the Jedi. This is why he was such a good general in the Clone Wars, is because he's such a soldier.
Yeah.
And to whereas a lot of
he
these
was
other
a beast.
Oh, so cool. But the rest of these guys are like keepers of the peace mindset. Yeah. And then that's where Ahsoka was. Yeah. But he's like, no, we got to make you a soldier with the negatives.
Which
that come with it.
Didn't work, in the Clone Wars.
Yes. Yeah, so that was great there. So then we get a great look at Anakin in his Clone Wars armor.
That was dope.
Oh,
that was
cool.
honestly probably my favorite part. Seeing him
and his hair was the same too.
It was the exact same.
It was the shorter hair too.
He looked great.
He looked so good in that. Makes me wish that we would have got Obi-Wan as well. That would have been cool.
Dude.
Maybe in the future.
And his Clone Wars armor.
It would have been sick.
That would have been awesome.
I would have loved that. And then we get Rex, Captain Rex.
Awesome. I wish he would have taken off his helmet or something low key, but
that would have been difficult to do to make him look like Rex from Morrison.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that we're gonna get an older Rex in modern times in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I hope so. Anyway.
That part was cool.
That was so cool. Just seeing him there, and it was just so cool. And the whole dialogue between them once again, they're just like, why are we here, Master? And she's like, you got to learn your lessons. You got to learn from your past mistakes. Yeah. And this was the build up there. And then we get, in my opinion, and I don't even think it's a competition, the coolest shot in all of Star Wars. The coolest shot in all of Star Wars. In all of Star Wars. I really believe this. And that be Anakin walking into battle, but turning into Vader with the smoke and then going back to Anakin. I honestly think that was the coolest shot we've ever had. I really do.
I don't know. Star Wars got some good shots. It's up there. It's up there.
I remember when I saw that and I screamed legit. Yeah. Like he was running into battle and then the smoke and turning to Vader. I was like, oh my goodness. I was not prepared for that. And oh man, that was so
teasing what was gonna come.
Right. And
like him tapping into his rage.
I want that as a poster on my wall. Bad.
I really do. 3 different posters
of that scene.
Yeah, of the transformation.
That scene was so cool. I'm like, Dave Filoni, you master.
That scene was dope.
So good. Oh, I love that part. And then we cut back to Hera and them, and Hu Yang, them and Hera have a conversation about Anakin. And then all we get from Hu Yang is he says that Anakin was intense, right? And that clears, that checks out.
We knew that much.
And then we go back to Ahsoka. We'll spend the majority of time again. We got to go back into Ahsoka. And then we go now. We're at the Siege of Mandalore, and I was not prepared for that either. I was like, and you could see Ahsoka's improvement too because the blue lightsaber. She was running around.
Yeah.
She's
going crazy.
She's going after all them Mandalorians and the Gar Saxton. Yeah, and all the. Oh, so cool. And we get Rex talking to her. It's like, Commander, let's go. I was like, oh my goodness, that was so cool. I love that part. It's great. And she looked good there too.
She looked awesome.
And also, I gotta say, and back up to the original passing, is I feel like this show definitely displayed how young Ahsoka really was in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it until now.
She was like, what, 12?
14.
14? Yeah, 14.
That's young.
That's young,
to be going into battle like that.
Dude, I was going to high school at that point.
Yeah, literally. Legit.
Home, yeah.
Absolutely at home.
Yeah, they really do nail it.
Oh, they do.
feel bad for her.
And then Anakin walks in, and he's not been there. He's like, I don't know this battle, right? And that was cool. And she's like, well, this is where we parted ways, and which is true, because next time they see each other, he's Vader.
Yeah.
And then Anakin is saying to her, like, you're part of the legacy, right? Which was cool to me. I was like, you are like me, right? I trained you to follow my path.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, if I followed your path, I mean, you know where that leads. And that was
calling them out, man.
That was so cool. And I really liked how she was like, my master and his master, and you're a part of the legacy now. I mean, that's just the whole legacy of Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka. I mean, that's the greatest legacy there is.
Yeah.
And then, Obi-Wan also branches off into Luke, and then, Leia as well. But so it's really cool to see that.
Yeah.
That part as well. And then Anakin's like, you learn nothing, right? You've learned nothing, you know nothing. And then we see Anakin. This part was cool too.
Yeah.
This whole episode was just cool. And we see Anakin with a red lightsaber.
Yeah.
Well, he's Vader now, but we see him as Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, as Hayden Christensen
with the red lightsaber.
Which I wish we would have gotten in Revenge of the Sith when he's fighting Obi-Wan. That would have
been cool.
Hard to see.
But it would have been hard to see with that. And then also, when would the time have been to bleed his crystal?
But that was cool, dude.
It was so cool to see him with the red lightsaber, then the Sith eyes, the red Sith eyes. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then they fight, and the fight, this was cool. Like, this is one of the best lightsaber fights I've seen, like, in Disney history. Actually, probably the best.
Probably is the best
Disney
in
history.
Disney history.
It was so good. And we get them going back into the world between worlds, and then the shoulder shrug into the Vader, and the back. Oh, that was so cool too. That was a great shot as well. Loved it. I wish he kind of would have stayed as Vader though when they got back.
When they got back.
When he did that, he turned to Vader, and they were fighting and like recreated their fight from Rebels.
Yeah, that would be dope. You
really
see like
cool.
half of his face.
Oh, that would have been cool,
dude.
I would have loved that. But he was turning back and forth, and then as they're fighting, obviously he's holding back. I mean, you can tell. But she gets the Sith eyes, right? When she's like about to possibly kill him, right? But she's like, no, this is not my path. And this also shows like she has some dark side in her because of, Anakin, the way their relationship was, and then her connections that she has. But she turns and she throws the lightsaber away. And this just really showed like, and then he's like, you chose to live, you've won, right? And you still got potential, or something like that, he said. And that was just, I mean, finally gets that she did it, right? She overcame her past.
She didn't fall to the same mistakes.
She didn't fall into the same mistakes, and just everything about it was really poetic justice, in my opinion. I think this was needed for the character of Ahsoka. We never got this before, and we finally have gotten like, okay, now she's gotten closure, and then she comes back as
move on.
Ahsoka the White. A lot of Lord of the Rings talk.
Gandalf.
She comes back in that white, and she looks good there.
Yeah, she looks really good,
in my opinion. And I just think it's really epic to finally see that, and that she comes back in this particular way. That she's come to closure. She's now a Jedi, and she's okay with that. And I think that is really, really cool. And then towards the end of the episode, to conclude the episode, she uses her Force abilities to sense what happens to Sabine, and the Sabine went to the galaxy, and then she uses the Purrgil to get to the next galaxy as well, which is also a great ending to this episode. Yeah. So just overall, again, like we said in the earlier, best episode of the series by far. Yeah. But even then, like, the whole series, to me anyway, has just been really good and consistent, and I think it's staying with that consistency. 3 episodes left. It'd be really hard to just absolutely make it bad. So I don't think they can fumble the ball this hard.
If they just stay consistent, I think it'll finish pretty well.
It'll finish very solidly. And I mean, Dave Filoni, he wrote all the episodes, directed this one. He had full control of this series. And Dave Filoni, we trust, I must say. I love that guy. I think he's doing an incredible job here. Love Ahsoka episode 5. Any final thoughts?
Honestly, man, they're never gonna do it, but it just makes me want live action Clone Wars now.
I know. Did you see that? Did you see that post?
The one you showed me with the 2 different.
I don't think. No. This one. I'll show you. I'll show you this picture. That like somebody online created a poster for live action Star Wars.
That's fire.
It's so.
I love the Obi-Wan picture.
Obi-Wan.
That looks really cool.
Oh, it's epic, man.
That's
I
epic.
Just think, I would love to get that
works
as well.
so well. They'd have to de-age everything,
and that'd be a hard show to make.
That'd be
expensive.
That'd be expensive.
That would be expensive.
People would
man.
turn up though for it.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
All right, guys. If you've enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download. Our podcast, Here's in the Moment, is available on all major podcast platforms. So check it out. If you want to stay up to date with our social media, check out our Instagram at Here's in the Moment.
And we just want to thank y'all for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.